Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I think we can start now. Unfortunately, Aya is feeling under the weather, so I'm stepping in on her stead today. I am Dina Husseini, heading client relations here at Sila, and it will be my absolute pleasure to take you through our newly launched Sila Insights Platform for social understanding. Now, I said social understanding, and that's not social listening exactly. How are they different? Social understanding is not really different than social listening, but it's just more, much more. Scylla uses its native AI powers to not only capture data, but actually understand the context beyond that. And that is just super important in today's digital world. It is able to actually truly understand the audiences, know exactly what they're saying, whether it's in English or in Arabic across all the different Arabic dialects. It can also know what they're saying, how they're feeling, whether it's just sentiment or emotions in depth, and know what triggers them and what motivates them to take action. Now, before we actually kick off, I'd just like to let you know that you can share all the questions that you might have in the chat, and then we'll go through them at the end. Let's start. This is the view that you will first see once you've successfully logged in on Sila Insights. Let's just go through basic tech features at the beginning before we dig deep into the dashboards. Over here, we have the language toggle, which switches between English and Arabic instantly. Let's try it out. There we go. And then here we have a chat for support. And the cool thing about it is that it's also enriched with AI. So you get instant responses, even if our support team is not available during, beyond working hours. And then over here, we have the Help Center, which is your go-to hub with articles that cover the entire suite, social understanding suite, and the dashboards. It gives you, more insights on the value beyond them. And then, of course, the charts and how to interpret them, how to explore the dashboards, etc. And then over here, we have Laura. And Laura is our very own GPT-style research assistant. What does that mean? It means that you can ask Laura questions and it can instantly give you answers with insights on your data. Now, it works in two different ways. You can either upload a file to your chat and then ask Laura questions on that, or you can just directly, type in a question about your dashboards and your data. Laura works in a way that your data is private, so if another user asks a question about data that is beyond theirs, it will not give them the answers, basically. Let's try it out for your info and reference. Now I'm going to upload a file here, and I'll send it to Laura. Can you summarize this file? There we go. This is how it's done. Now let's go through the suite. We have 5 main pillars, if you may. The first one is the digital listening and performance. This gives an overview, a very thorough overview on your brand reputation, image, industry trends, what's happening, your performance on social and the web. And this helps you a lot with your marketing efforts and planning. And then you have the audience insights, which goes beyond demographics and gets more in depth into the personality and the consumption behavior of your audience. And this is super important just to understand your consumers, your customers. It helps a lot with targeting, and we'll go through these two in details in today's webinar. But for the sake of time, we won't be able to go in depth into these 3. I'll just give you an overview now, and in the future, we'll have another webinar just to dig deep into them separately. Our customer experience hub looks into ratings, looks into reviews from different platforms, from different sources, things like Google reviews. If it's e-commerce, we look into Amazon, we look into different platforms. If it's travel, we look into TripAdvisor and Booking.com, etc. And it digs deep into the reviews that you're getting, so you can actually monitor people's perceptions on your brand, the different aspects that fall into that. So you get to see the user experiences and their perceptions and their emotions towards different aspects when it comes to your business and your product. So you can really work on your customer experience journey and tackle those. And then we have the digital media measurement. This is essentially on paid ads. It gives you a lot of insights on very important aspects like digital spends, the share of voice of your brand versus your competitors in the market, and overall campaign effectiveness based on these two. And then finally, we have the Influencer Hub, where you can really utilize trusted voices and content creators in your industry, in your market, reach out to them, and of course, then monitor your campaign success or just performance in real time. So you'll be able to tell throughout the campaign how things are happening, the posts, how they're performing, the content creators' individual performance in details when it comes to posts, when it comes to stories. And of course, if you have a digital activation or a competition going on, you'll also be able to monitor user-generated content and participations. Now, let's dig deep into the first one, the digital listening and performance. This is the first dashboard. It's performance. This gives you an overview on your brand reputation and your brand image at the moment. It gives you basic metrics like the total posts and the average engagements and the reach and the video views that you're getting, but it also provides a lot more. This is the brand health index that we have done here at Sila. It showcases two main aspects. The first one is the brand health, and the second one is the sustainability score. Let's talk more about that. For the brand health, we have three main metrics: your brand score, and this tells you how your brand is performing, how well it's performing in terms of, engaging with your audience. And then you have the second one is the community score. How often are people actually talking about you online? Is your brand popular? Do people, mention it? Do people post about it, etc.? And then the third one is the net sentiment, which gives you a lot of insights, about your brand image in the market. It's basically positive versus negative sentiments, and we'll dig deep into that in the second dashboard. Now, for sustainability scores, we have the overall one, and then we have the social and the environmental score. And these are very important because a lot of brands usually, last year in the UAE, for example, it was the year of sustainability. It's a huge topic going on. And we spoke about that in our the last webinar that we've done with Dina. We went through a report that we've done on sustainability in the UAE and KSA. But it's super important to note that when brands make initiatives when it comes to sustainability, they're usually environmental sustainability, but then some audiences are actually more interested in social. So it's important for each brand to actually take note on what their audiences are talking about and how the brand is performing when it comes to these two different aspects of sustainability. And then we have post trends. This gives an overview. Of course, you'll find here a lot of things because I haven't actually filtered anything, which we'll go through now. But let me just take you through this dashboard. For the post trends, you'll get to see the volume changes over time. And of course, this is historical depending on your setup of your dashboard. It tells you the split of content types and of course, how this is changing as well as time passes by. And then we have the engagements at the bottom over here. And this will be able to provide you with a breakdown of what kind of engagements. Is it likes, is it comments, saves, shares, video views, etc. And the differences across the different platforms. So you see which platform is performing better than the other, which platform actually had a peak or a dip at one point in time, whether it's a seasonal point in time that actually matters most to your brand. And The good thing about this is, and by this I mean across all dashboards and all the social understanding suite, is that you're not only able to see these insights and this data for your brand, but also your competition. Meaning, if, for example, Ramadan is an important season for me throughout the year, and I want to focus on that, then I'm able to see how my brand has performed during Ramadan over the past couple of years or just this year. And I'm also able to see how my competitors performed in terms of engagements and how these differ. They might reach a lot more audience than me, but then I might have a lot more engagements than them. My posts might be getting a lot of shares or saves, not just views. And that is what we call quality engagements, comments, relevant comments, not just irrelevant comments. And that's also a very important point to note, which we'll also dig deep into very soon. And then you can compare timelines, you can compare between brands, and this is how you really get a more comprehensive overview on the performance for your brand across the digital sphere. Now let's have a look at the filters before we move on to the rest of the dashboards. The filters include the brand, and this is where you get to choose your brand or your brand plus the comp set or just a competitor. And then you get to choose a specific channel. For example, I just want to look into the performance on Instagram alone. Or I want to see Instagram separately, and then I'll have a look at TikTok and see how they differ. And this is across all dashboards. Again, important to reiterate. Country is super important in this region because a lot of brands have presence across different markets and they're using the same accounts. So it's probably ex-MENA or GCC or Arabia, for example. And it's important to see how they're performing in different countries and how the different audiences are reacting to the brand. It's also important to see the audience and how they're interacting as well. So country is very important, especially in this region where there's a very high number of expats, Arab expats. Now, another thing that is super important, and we'll also tackle more when we get into audience insights, is the Arabic expats and the different dialects that are here. It's important to note, obviously people, when they speak Arabic online, they do not use the standard modern Arabic. Usually it's the brands that do that. But people speak in their own dialects, and that's actually 70% of the Arabic that's spoken online is in different dialects. And the dialects are a lot, and they're very different. And one word in one dialect can mean something completely different in another, with different emotions, with different sentiment. And it's just important to understand the context and not just the words. It's easy for platforms to just, translate, which is very, very difficult, and it does not give the right, insight if you're just purely translating because it's not accurate. But if you understand the context of the conversation, if you understand the emotions, if you understand the background of the audience, if you're understanding the responses and the reaction with the word that is being said, it gives you so much more power. And then in the filters, we also have the time range, which we spoke about, and then topic. Topic is also important because Sila does not only track and monitor your accounts on social, but it's also able to track topics. And this is super important for a lot of brands and a lot of our clients. Sometimes they don't have a strong presence on social media, and sometimes it's a B2B company, for example, which obviously would not get a lot of engagements per se or mentions on their socials, but they're interested to know about specific topics about, tender opportunities or sustainability in general, or, electricity or travel behaviors, for example. And this is where the topics and the themes can really come in handy, because then we can curate a list of exactly what the client needs to look into. And then you can track that regardless of whether they've mentioned your brand or they haven't. Now, let's move on to sentiment and emotions. All right. Sentiment, as we all know, in a lot of platforms, a lot of social media platforms and insights and social listening tools, you have the positive, you have the negative, and you have the neutral. What we do is we add to that a level of irrelevant content. And irrelevant content will tell you a lot about the actual net sentiment score for your brand. Because again, especially we see this in this region, you get a lot of spam, you get a lot of, ads, people asking, to go to their profiles and view the stories or buy from them. And that doesn't do much to the brand or the product or the ad or the key message that you're trying to convey. And even if it does sound like it's a positive comment, it has nothing to do with your brand and it does not add to your brand image or affect it in any way. So it's important to dig deep and, put these aside and look into what really matters and see how you perform then. Beyond sentiment, we look into emotions. Now, that is also super important, because when you have just negative sentiment, it could be sadness, it could be anger, it could be disgust. And these are all very different and they affect your brand in very different ways. So it's important to truly understand how your audience perceives you. And this can change, from one platform to another. It can change from 1 month to another, or a year over year. Changes is possible as well. So it's important to understand and it's important to dig deep. And this all helps in truly understanding your audience. And this will help you with key messaging. It will help you with the content curation. It will help you in, changing your strategy from one platform to another. It will help you change your targeting towards your audience from one platform to another completely. And this, of course, is all backed up using our audience insights, which we'll go into. I keep jumping from one dashboard to another, but it's just really important, I feel, to mention that it's not one dashboard that can solve all your problems, and one dashboard is not enough. One aspect is not enough. One pillar will not be enough to, boost your marketing strategy. But the way that this works is you dig deep using filters, you try to read the graphs, you try to read the story that the graphs are telling you, and you take bits and pieces from each dashboard, and it gives you a holistic overview on your brand and your presence and how you're performing overall, and of course, in understanding your segment audiences. Let's go through the third dashboard and the last one for the digital listening and performance part. We have the keywords. And this is divided into 4 main aspects. The topics in general, top topics or themes that your audience is discussing. And then you have the top hashtags, the trending hashtags that people are utilizing when it comes to your brand. And this is important to, jump on trends. It's important to see what people are mostly interested in. It will help you boost any campaign or activation that is going on. And then you have the top positive and top negative. These are important because the top positive obviously will give you a quick overview on what people like the most around your brand or your industry. And the top negative will show you at a glance what's going, in a very wrong direction and how you can change that. The last dashboard is actually not a dashboard, but it's just a list of all the data points. So you have 2 different views over here, the grid view, and then you have the table view where you can see all the different posts and comments, their description, the links to them, who the user was, and post dates, and all the different metrics. Of course, this is all downloadable, including all the individual graphs or a dashboard as a whole. Now, let's go through the audience insights, starting off with the demographics. You get demographical data like the gender split, the most popular one, and then the age bracket, the audience size that was analyzed, the top country. You get the top 5 countries over here where your audience lives, and their preferred language, the most popular language spoken among your audience, and their top platform. You get the details over here. This graph shows you a condensed view over the gender split plus the age groups as well. And then you get the distribution of geography. Now, language is where we look into the different dialects. You see the trends, you see who's speaking what on which platform. And this is important because it gives you an indication on the nationality. Besides or in addition to the sentiment that we've spoken about, it will give you a lot of help when it comes to the tone of voice that you're using across the different platforms, the way that you're talking, the dialect that you're using, even your community management and your customer service and your customer experience journey. This can all really need some help from understanding the different dialects and the nationalities of your audience. Now, this is one of my favorite dashboards. This is the personality. After you've had an idea on your demographics, your audience demographics, what languages they speak, what dialects they speak across the different platforms, it's important to know their personality. And this makes a huge difference. Now, the thing about this dashboard is, this is, for starters, based on the Big 5 personality traits. It's a psychological study that was done long ago. What it basically says is that as humans, we are very complex creatures. We are a bit of everything, very contradicting traits. We can be very sociable, but also love a lot of, me time. We can be very generous, but also a little selfish sometimes. So what this dashboard tells you is, it gives you an indication on your audience based on their digital interactions, and it tells you how they're inclined towards specific traits and specific facets more than the others. For example, and over here on the right side, it will give you a summary in case you don't want to read into all of these, but it would be very useful to go through it all in details. For example, if I want to look into openness, I'll be able to see the inclination. For example, my audience, of course, this is not specified to a specific brand, so it's an average of all. My audience is 63% more inclined to be emotionally aware than they are otherwise. And this gives you a lot of details, intricate details that can go into your media planning and your targeting efforts beyond, the content and the campaigns that you're going to be working on, whether they're online or even offline. And then the last dashboard is the behaviors dashboard. And this gives you more in-depth insights on 2 things: the consumption behavior of your audience and the needs and values. Meaning it will give you a lot of details on their preferences, what they like to do, and their influence. By influence, we mean how they are actually motivated and influenced to take action or make a purchase. For example, are online ads effective when it comes to actually persuading your audience to make a purchase or buy something? Or do they care more about, the brand name? Or do they get more influenced by family members and word of mouth? And again, these dashboards can also cover your competitors. And this is what's, one of the things that makes it pretty cool, is that we do not need access to any specific social media accounts. for your competitors, but rather we rely on public data and we analyze a huge set of audience data and their interactions to be able to actually analyze their personality and their behaviors. I think we've come to a conclusion on today's demo of our newly launched Sila Insights platform. I can stop sharing now and we can see if there are any comments that we can look into. First question is, can I monitor specific themes around my brand or does it only track accounts? Yes. I think this question came in before we tackled this part today. You can definitely monitor specific themes and specific topics. If you want, you might not even, track specific accounts. You can just go, directly to tracking different topics. And that will give you a lot of insights based on, of course, your industry, your market, and what you're looking into. But that is something that is absolutely possible and it's already being done. And speaking of that, let me also tell you about the different data sources that we do track beyond social media. So we track all social media accounts, all social media platforms, sorry. Beyond that, we also look into the web. So we do track news articles, for example, and that was a question that we received from the registration forms. If we look into PR news articles, yes, we do. We do collect news articles. We do track different platforms, like I said, when it comes to CX, for example, the Customer Experience Hub. We track websites and platforms or hubs, even like Reddit, for example, and forums. And we, of course, the ads for social and search. I think that might be it. There's another question. From Fedi, do you have any tools to define the real accounts and the fake accounts, since there are many tools making fake accounts to comment and rise the reach? Yes, we do that as well. So this is actually part of our campaign tracker and the user profiles on our influencer hub. It's what we call a trust score. It tells you how much of your audience is real and how much are actually spam or bots or bot accounts or followers. And we also have a metric that we call the active reach, how much of your followers are actually actively being reached by your account and seeing your content or interacting with it. All right. Thank you guys so much again for joining today. And just so you know, you'll be receiving a copy of this recording. And in case you're interested, in exploring more or seeing more of the platform, please do reach out to our team and we'll definitely get in touch with you for a demo or a meeting. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.